Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to a very tired episode 151 of NerdPod Generations. As always, I am your illustrious host, Steve Taylor, along with the lovely Al Judson.
Hello, friends and enemies.
What's up, man?
Dude, it's been a fucking time.
It's been a time.
Jesus Christ. We crossed the 150 threshold.
Yeah.
And I got the sickest I've been in like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
So,
took a lot out of you.
Yeah, so that's why we've been gone. And then last week, me and Kelly had a trip. And so it's just been, the last week and a half have been good. The week before that was extremely bad.
Yeah.
They found sepsis in my ear. They don't know how. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So, but we made it out. Thank God for
Nice.
antibacterials. Hopefully won't have the sound issues that I found out when I could hear out of both ears were kind of present in episode 150. So if anybody noted those, I noted them once I could hear again.
Very good. Well, we're back, though. That's the important thing.
The important thing.
I'm very happy we were able to do this. So, folks, today is our big NFL preview show.
Yes.
We are actually recording this on Wednesday, so the day before the first game.
Right
so
before.
we're getting it in right at the very end.
Right in
oh
on
my
it.
God, I can't wait for this. So, friends, if this is your first time listening to us, please go to nerdpodgen.com. There are links to pretty much everything. And finally, Apple Podcast has an online presence on PC so that I could set up a link to our podcast on Apple Podcasts at our website. So now there's links to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, everything else.
You know, I'm not going to go on one of my classic Apple diatribes.
Yes, you will.
But I'm just going to say it's 2024.
Yeah.
Tick, tick.
Yeah. Little TikToks. We are going to jump right in. We're going to start like we do each week with what we've been watching, playing, reading. Did you want to go or do you want me to go?
I'll coin flip it for you, or
Coin
rock,
flip
paper,
it.
scissors. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Damn it. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. All right, you go.
Okay. So, I won, by the way, folks.
Yeah.
If you can't see, I had scissors, he had paper. But, all right, so I was going to touch on 2 Marvel things, but I decided to only touch on one because I want to also briefly talk about I have been playing more of NCAA Football.
Yeah, that was a big deal for you.
I love the game. I've realized once again the reason why the game works instead of Madden is it has all the same issues as Madden does. Pretty much everything is a nightmare in that game as far as the secondary doing the most miraculous interceptions. Even when you have 5 steps on them, they're able to close the ground to intercept the ball.
Yeah.
My wide receivers jumping for passes, which made no sense. Like, I'll throw a pass that hits my guy in stride, and instead of catching it in stride and still running, he will jump for no reason, catch it, and the animation of him jumping slows him down enough where the defender can stop.
Yeah.
And it gets so frustrating.
Yeah.
But I think, once again, the thing that makes this game better is the Road to Glory, which is their, create a player mode. 1,000 times better than anything Madden's ever done. Mm-hmm. It's not buckled down with a stupid storyline or voiceover or any of that crap. It is very meat and potatoes, very sim, very fun. And then the gameplay, like I said, I think it hides its flaws because you're playing as college students.
Oh, okay.
So I have less of an expectation of things to be perfect.
Now, have they introduced NIL into the conceit of the game so you can get contracts to get more and more money?
You can get contracts to get money. You can go into the transfer portal.
Nice.
Everything. So it's awesome, but they don't overdo it. Like, I was playing at Kenosha State just because that's where my guy got drafted. Mm-hmm. Or not drafted, selected. As the starter. All these other teams, I could have been like second or third string, but I wanted to be the starter. Mm-hmm. You get an NIL deal from like a local barbershop saying, can you do a commercial and I'll give everyone on the offensive line haircuts?
That's really funny.
If you agree to it, then your leadership goes up because you're doing that to get your other players haircuts. So it's cool that they do things like that.
I like a lot. I like that a lot.
It is really good. And then I just transferred over because my guy, his freshman and sophomore year was so good. I got into the transfer portal and went to Ohio State.
Wow.
as the starter.
The
Ohio
State.
As the starter. And now I'm wondering what I haven't played a game yet. Like, I just did the transfer, so I'm waiting to see what the NIL deals will be for the bigger colleges. I'm assuming it's going to be money in a lot of it.
That is so different than how I play football games.
Yeah.
Because listen, I spent more time as a Bills fan watching them be terrible than Sirius Black spent in Azkaban prison. All right? He only did 12 years. Yeah. I did fucking 17 of that shit, man. There was a long period of time where I would just play as the Bills and either do a fantasy draft so I could make them good, or go in and edit their players or add a player so that they would have like this trump card player. And I remember doing that for Trent Edwards because I was I just need them to be good. And he started 5-0 that one year. You know, the idea of like, I'm going to make a player and then let him get drafted wherever. Because, like, you say that you're part of the Ohio State. I'm like, that's an interesting choice. But at the same time, I'm sure within the mechanics of the game, there was a reason why you chose the Ohio State.
Well, it was one of the few, which in this game, they're only a 4-star team, not a 5-star team.
Really?
And it was one of the few 4-star teams that offered me the starting position if I transferred. I didn't want to go in as a bench player or second string. I wanted to be the starter. So that's... But what I almost didn't do it because I was able to bring Kennesaw State to the Fiesta Bowl.
Wow.
And I lost to the team who ended up winning. Was it Miami? I can't remember, but I ended up losing. But I also do like to take these bad 1-star teams and make them good. Yeah. That's a fun, that's fun for me to do. Like, all right, there's nobody on this team, but I know my play calling is going to be better than, so I'm going to try to, and then over the years, because I also have the online dynasty I'm doing with a friend of mine, well, you're not just, like, the road to glory, you're only controlling the quarterback. That is it. You don't control anybody else on the team. You don't do anything else because that's your guy.
Can you pick a different position, or do you have to be quarterback?
No, you pick any position.
Oh, okay.
But I pick quarterback because I put my son's name. I've always...
okay.
You get the play, and you can call audibles, but you can't choose the play because the coach sends in the play, just like in real football. But like the dynasty mode I enjoy because I'm the university... No, I'm Oregon State Beavers. Mm-hmm. So I was only like a 2-star team, but I've brought them... like knocking on the door of being a great team, and it's that gratification where you're like, oh my god, I'm like third in the country, and I wasn't even third in my division. You know what I mean?
Being an actual Deion Sanders as opposed to the actual Deion
the fake
Sanders.
Deion Sanders. You mean basing everything on your children? But anyway, so I love that game. The Marvel journey my son and I have been on. We are currently watching Hawkeye, so I was going to talk about that, but we're only we still have 2 episodes left. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to wait till next week.
You got to find out what happens with Kingpin.
I know what happens with stupid Kingpin. So Eternals. That's what we've watched since our last show.
This will be glorious, I'm sure.
So this is, and I think we kind of touched on this when we watched it. I think if this movie had a proper editor, it would be a lot better than it was. Because in watching it, yes, the writing isn't great. Some of the storylines aren't great.
That's my thing.
But the biggest problem was this thing was edited by somebody with their eyes closed, with their fingers in their ears, just using their tongue on the keyboard. Mm-hmm. It is so over the top. And I'm wondering, because I remember the big thing that they were preaching with this is that it's the longest Marvel movie. Because it is like 2 hours and 46 minutes.
But Endgame was 3 hours.
No, but I don't know. It was said it was one of the longest or something. Yeah. I remember they were just pushing that, saying it's like the most adult and one of the...
See, I remember them pushing it as this prestige piece. That they were like, this is going to be an Academy Award nominated. We're going to put this out in November so it gets real Academy buzz. Yeah.
It had, and that's the thing is, it had moments. Like it had the skeleton of what they were preaching, but then they just fucked it all up. Like when I watched it, I was like, man, this isn't good, but there's something here.
Yeah.
And like I said, a big part of it is they needed to edit out easily 45 minutes of that movie.
Yeah.
Could have easily been gone, and it would have been a much tighter film. But then the underuse of characters, which we discussed with not only Salma Hayek, Angelina Jolie, Kit Harington. Like, there's so many, like, good characters in it that are either underutilized or they're just poorly written. Kind of like Icarus.
Icarus, yeah.
He could have been the perfect mix between Homelander and Superman. As far as the abilities are the same, but then good, bad, and it's just he was written so poorly.
Yeah.
That bothered me because I'm like, you had the perfect actor for it. He was really, for what he had. I don't fault him because I do like him as an actor after Game of Thrones and Rocket Man. He was in that. There's so many missed opportunities in this movie.
Well, that was my whole thing with this movie. Was I like Sprite and I like Makari. I thought Barry Koenig's character was a waste of time. Druig. Yes. I don't know what the fuck this was about. I know what it was about, but you never got there. Festus, I was like, this is fine, but not. It's a waste of Brian Tyree Henry.
Yeah.
And then you get the big hitters, where it's like Cersei. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
You get Icarus. There's nothing here.
Nothing.
You get Angelina Jolie. What was her name? Thana?
I think Thana.
Because she's supposed to be related to Thanos, which is another thing that we're going to get to. Nothing. Gilgamesh? Nothing. What was the name of Kumail Nanjiani's characters? Like Kengu or something. Less than nothing. Like they make him Kingu. They just nothing. They made him into this joke that was never anything that was funny.
And even though I was expecting it, it was still jarring where he just disappears.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Why is he gone?
Yeah.
Like, this guy literally got yoked to play this role, and you're going to take him out of most of the action scenes.
Yeah. There were so many elements of that movie that when it came to characters, I was like, this is nothing.
Yeah.
This is less than nothing. And then you have Black Knight in it, quote unquote. And it's less than nothing. And then you have the everything of the plot itself.
Yeah.
So you, on top of having very little for me to build on, you then have this plot which almost goes out of its way to insult me as an audience member when they say, we don't need to talk about what about Thanos.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
That was one that, because I remember when we first saw it, and Kit Harington, the Black Knight, his character actually does bring it up to Cersei, saying, well, why didn't you help with Thanos? And her response was, well, we were only supposed to interfere if it had to do with the...
the Anti-Eternals. Oh, what are they called? They are called, the main leader is Crow. They're deviants.
Deviants, thank you. It's true when you think of it. You're like, okay, so they needed to stop the deviants so that the population could continue to grow so that there was enough energy and life force for the Celestial to be born. But they weren't told to interfere with Thanos, even though he snapped out half of all life in the universe. Stopping the birth of potentially thousands, if not millions, of Celestials.
It doesn't make any sense.
It makes it really made no sense.
It makes no fucking sense. And it's insulting to us as an audience, their excuse of like, well, but we weren't supposed to. What are you fucking talking about?
Yeah.
But now you are. Now you're like, oh, we're going to replace the Avengers. Who's going to be Captain America? Who's going to be Iron Man? I'm like, where was this industriousness 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago? When Thor, an actual god, dropped out of the heavens, did you think maybe might be something want to check out? And then it gets even worse when you explore the actual canon of the Eternals, where Thanos is a deviant. It's as simple as that. There's a reason why Thanos' name is so close to Thanos. They're related, literally. Mm-hmm. And then you get into the Crow stuff, where he's an actual being, not just some monster that kind of has this weird hypnotic thing.
It's so weird.
I hate this. Like, you want to talk about missed opportunities? It's just opportunities blown off.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's supposed to be because it needs to be more artistic, so they need to make it more natural. But then you get the fucking Power Ranger Sans helmet costumes where everybody
it's so bad.
I don't get this, man.
And it was a banger cast. Like, I'm watching it like, how the fuck did this not succeed? Like, the cast is fucking ridiculous, and it just was so poorly written. You know, once again, I look at the second half of Shang-Chi as the really big downslide for writing with Marvel, where they just got lazy and said, let's just put a bunch of CGI and a couple dragons and fucking say fuck it. And then this movie, kind of the same thing, where it's like, we just need a lot of CGI creatures. We need to have a celestial break through the core of the Earth, but not destroy or affect the Earth in any way, shape, or form.
In any way, shape,
Except
or form.
To bring adamantium.
Which you didn't need to do. You already have all the ingredients to make adamantium.
And you know damn well that when they came up with it, that was not their intention.
Well, and not only that, you know damn well that someone invented this as a rationale because they didn't understand what adamantium actually is.
Yeah.
They just didn't open a fucking book and they said, oh, this can be how we introduce adamantium. No, shithead. You already had everything you need to make adamantium.
Yeah.
And adamantium is not just a Wolverine thing, also. So you could have used it and argued contractually that it is not just a Wolverine thing, that there are other characters who use adamantium as part of their whole thing. So I don't get this, man. This is fucking bullshit.
And in watching this, I'm like, this is before Mouth of Madness.
Mouth of Madness is better than Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, Mouth of Madness was an actual movie in the 80s, I believe, Into the Mouth of Madness.
Even better.
But Multiverse of Madness, so it's before that. So Doctor Strange, at least, is on the planet. Because we've seen Wong in,
Shang-Chi.
We know Shang-Chi, so we know Doctor Strange. Everything that's going on with the battle, the huge battle at the end, and the Celestial coming out, it's like,
Wong or Steven didn't want to step in on this, kind of just poke their head and be like, hey, what's going on?
Contacting Captain Marvel and saying, hey, there's a being coming out of the center of the
fucking
Earth.
Planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you fucking come help us?
It might be an issue. It might be something you want to look into.
That's the part that I was like, what the fuck?
Well, and also, the Avengers don't have a leader at this point, so you would have a moment where it would actually be interesting to see how all these characters on the Avengers would react to this giant crisis happening. Like, they should have had some response. To have no response is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me think that there is no Avengers at this point then. To have no response to this.
We know that the Hulk is kicking around.
Hulk is around.
At the end of Shang-Chi.
Thor was still on the planet.
Thor was still there.
No, I guess Thor went off with the Guardians. But
yeah, but still, that
Valkyrie's on the planet. All of those Asgardians, none of those Asgardians are going to be like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
You're not going to have any moment where someone is like, oh, this is because of the Asgardians, or this is because... There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's zero world building. Almost a lack of conceptual understanding of the 11 years of filmmaking that had predated this.
Yeah.
And
So, and I think that's the main thing with me with the Eternals, and it has been since we watched it the first time. I'm just very disappointed. Like, I don't get disappointed with Marvel movies anymore. I just get mad.
Yeah.
The Eternals disappointed me. Just because I thought, with that cast, you have an interesting group of characters. There's something, and they fucked it up, and that's what was disappointing.
Well, and it's so arrogant.
It's
so arrogant. It's as arrogant as the Acolyte or fucking Joker at times, of just like, you're gonna love us. We're gonna be so good. We're gonna knock your fucking pants off. And if it didn't knock your pants off, there's something wrong with you. And it's amazing. And check it out. We're gonna get nominated and win all the Oscars. And it's like, do you know that the reason Black Panther was nominated at all and won anything was because of the nature of the people making it.
Yeah.
And the way that they embraced the cultural aspects in a way that had never been done before.
Yeah.
Name one moment where that kind of thing happens here.
And if you think about it, because Shang-Chi, I believe, was a success. This was the first of
big
the
failures.
because you can't count Black Widow because that was a COVID thing.
Yeah.
So this was the first big failure.
Yeah.
And it's like watching it, you're like, oh, this is where the slide started.
This is the moment they fall flat on their face. And then they have, it's like one of those parents trying to get a Tickle Me Elmo, where they fall flat on their face. And before they can get up, you suddenly have She-Hulk running over their back, and Hawkeye, and Echo, and Loki Season 2. And it's just over and over again, they're just getting stampeded by all this bad content that they already had in the pipeline. And it's like, well, this is how we got where we are. Is you have one trampled parent, no Tickle Me Elmos, and a bunch of stupid shit just scattered around the store.
That is the only positive I'm looking forward to is... the next episode of Hawkeye is the Florence Pugh one.
Which is a good one.
And I that's why I'm excited, because I do remember her so fondly in this series as the only good thing about the series.
I like Haley Steinfeld in the series.
She's good.
I have complaints about how they executed on her story, just because I again, end up having questions about the snap and it's missed opportunities. It's not so much that they didn't get Kate right. It's that they had better options and they didn't execute on any of them.
Well, and like just briefly, once again, I'll talk about more next week. The thing that I don't like about her is they pulled a Spider-Man with her, which they kind of, and a lot of times, made her really dumb. And it's like, she's not this stupid. Like, no one's this...
She's smarter than Clint.
Yeah. And they play that in some scenes, but then the other scenes, she's just doing stupid shit. And you're like...
You're also hampered by the fact that I'm thinking of My Life as a Living Weapon Clint. The Clint Barton that I grew up with, that I love, that I've watched since his immaculate line when they return to Avengers Mansion, not Tower, Mansion, and the place is just absolutely fucking trashed. And his reaction is, man, somebody really pearled our harbor. It's like, it will live in infamy in my mind for... ever, because how could it not? But like, you don't have that Hawkeye. You have swell dad Hawkeye who got an arm tattoo and drank a lot for 5 years.
And the hearing aid thing with him, it's like, once again, I know that this show came out. We're not gonna talk about Hawkeye. Let's go on to your.
I was about to say, because that's from the comics and I'm okay with it. But
I know it is, but it's pigeonholed in this. We'll talk about it next week.
We'll talk about it next week.